Hello, everyone. All right. So we are down to the last session. I think, wow, what a day, huh? I learned so much from all these talks. I hope you guys are too. But from popular request, a lot of people complained that I didn't give you guys the floor to ask question. I guess because, I'm too excited. So I asked them the question. So for this session, we're going to change around a little bit. So I will ask 1 or 2 questions and then open up the floor to the audience. So please prepare the toughest question of the day for our panelists, okay? So, think about the question. Let me start out with so I'll have 2 questions. So very interesting. So one thing about AI in healthcare is that the consequence of the wrong decision, right, wrong diagnosis, is very high. So how do you guys mitigate the risk, versus the usability, right? If you are too cautious, then, then it's not really useful. And so how do you kind of balance out these things?
I can start first. So basically, the fundamental of how we mitigate the risk is, in medicine and, basically in general, it's a lot of responsibility because we deal with humans. So the fundamental of this is, first, you need to start with the scenario and be realistic in the sense of, say, AI will be assistant. AI will helping, the expert to do more efficient, to do better consistency and accuracy, and also solving the problem of bias. That like patient choose the hospital, not the hospital choose the patient. So what I mean by that is each of the hospital, they have expertise of certain field, and the patient will tend to go to those hospital. Giving a example, like say John Hopkins, they have more patients about pancreatic cancer. But if you take that problem and go to UCLA hospital, you have only few cases of pancreatic cancer there. So this is a fundamental phase, and I think that AI can help. And I think I refer to the first question from Dr. Thức mentioned that, what do you feel about the readiness of AI for medicine? I feel personally, AI for medicine today is just like 10 years ago when people were talking about self-driving car. So it is a long journey, but the progression will go there. And I believe that someday AI can help in the medicine.
Great, thank you.
Maybe I can play the role of a moderator because I'm not an expert in healthcare. But I think a lot of the companies and experts are actually companies. They're focusing on empowering doctors. What do you think about empowering patients? Helping patients to understand their medical record better. Or could be any other things.
I think it's a really great point because actually the medicine so far has been asymmetric.
Possible scenario that I imagine in the future, you can have your phone as your personal assistant. So I think people have developed techniques that you can use your phone, right, to take picture of your skin, and it can sort of detect, if you have skin cancer. And I really believe that, nowadays there's research about you can look at the eye's image. You can detect not only the eye disease, but you can also tell about your heart disease because there's a blood vessel in the eye image. So these are quite powerful, and I imagine a future when you can just, take your phone, talk to itself, it listen to your voice, how you say things, your skin color, your eye, then it can tell, hey, you might have a problem, maybe in a few days or in a few weeks.
Yeah, and then with the introduction of wearable, right? So now, these wearable devices collecting so much data about a person, right? So I think that's a lot of interesting thing that we can do there.
And I think one more I want to add is, I think like to solving the AI for medicine, I think that it is a combination of software and hardware and IoT and AI. And I think that's one of the mission and the objective that we do in Big Brain, that we also working with university in US. For example, like we're also working with someone to research on how we collect the brain signal, the breath, the heartbeat, and combination of that, with the imaging, so that we can make a better accuracy, precision and prediction. So it is, like I say, it's a journey, but we have to start something. And if we believe in it and we continue to work hard on it and we have a great team, we can do it. Thank you.
Great. All right. So that's a nice ending to the question from me. Let's open the floor to the audience. Please raise your hand if you have a question. Yeah. Can the team give the mic to...
Okay, so I have question for Mr. Hùng Trương. So in your presentation, I see that you say in the US right now, FDA has no kind of formal process.
Talent in AI, or Kotai for short. I would like to ask Trinh Tran about his work, but I invite you all to have a take on it. So, in your talk, we see that we try to kind of represent the drug and the molecular in terms of like vectors, and then we apply the conventional deep learning framework to do the predictions. Even though we can use like graph convolutional neural network on that, but for me, since the search space is huge and is, I don't think the conventional methods would scale well. Yeah. So I think it's better we exploit the inductive bias in terms of the chemical properties of the things, right? If we add this and that, it's gonna like react like this, and we're gonna end up with that with such properties. So my question is there any way we can exploit such kind of prior knowledge in terms of like symbolic level, right? To incorporate that into the sub-symbolic level of the deep neural networks, so that we can have like better generalization beyond the smoothness of the embedding, like for something like combinatoric generalization, right? Go beyond whatever we use to train, and try to combine the known blocks to invent new things. Yeah, basically. Yeah. So, do you know any existing work, or do you think it's necessary to go in that direction? Like something like combining symbolic reasoning and deep learning. Let's call it like deep symbolic or neurologic methods. Thank you.
It's very, very difficult.
All right, great. Next question. Oh, okay. I think the lady has the mic first, so okay, please go ahead, and then we'll have you ask the question. The gentleman ask the question after. Okay, please. Okay, while waiting, maybe...
Okay.
Oh, yeah, never mind. Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Ngân, and I have a question specialized for the panel discussion. Thank you for your global and international mindset about the artificial intelligence. However, as you know, in Vietnamese circumstances, how can we apply the AI for the healthcare, for example? Yes, in Vietnamese cases. And as you know, in Vietnamese hospital, we have to make a line in the public health service. Yes, I mean the population of Vietnamese. So the question is, how can we localize? In other words, how can we customize the artificial intelligence, not in American circumstances, but in Vietnamese circumstances? And this is a question specialized for Mr. Hung Park, CEO from Vin AI.
Thank you it's a good question. So I think that, let me rephrase the question. So the question is about how can we apply AI to solve for the Vietnamese and how we can make sure that specification or specialized will be so kind of like with a good quality. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that is the question about. So I think when you do AI, and especially in deep learning, you always have to start with the labeling data set. So you have to basically, in Vietnam, you need to collect the data from, like the north, the middle, the south, and different hospital and different DC that you try to classify or detect or segmentation. And then you will use that as the kind of like, high quality with labeling. You can apply, if you don't have enough data, then you can apply like, transfer learning and other technique, including like auto augmentation, auto labeling, and you also train the model that, maybe into the two layer. One is more generalization for different, people of the world, and then you also have another layer to maximize and optimize for different region. So that is a thing that you can do. The other thing you can do is if you feel that is taking so long to get the result, especially like ensemble model is huge and take a lot of CPU, GPU, and on of the training, then you may probably try to optimize this by do a retrain, and then also do a different segmentation for the data. I think like today in the medical field, they have a concept called 4P. So the P is stand for personalization, prediction, prevention, and participatory. So I think it's already tackled and tried to optimize in the scenario that you described. So I think in machine learning, if you cannot achieve that, sometimes you can apply the concept of rule-based and then making that apply for your own. But say that you have to collect the data and you have to collect enough data to train and optimize. And then you're also using IoT and other kind of technology to continue to monitor and collect the data, and then using the concept of E&E, explore and exploit, and then also active learning, reinforced learning. But I say that before you actually doing reinforced learning, you probably need to have a bootstrap so that you can have enough, quality. Then you can apply the reinforced learning, But I think technology is moving, allow you to have more supervised and all of the other technique that people talking throughout today. So it is a journey that you can bring things together. But at the end of the day, I feel like say, just like you're teaching a kid before, like, they can run, they have to know how to walk first. So walking is where you need, like, some kind of a labeling data supervised. Then people can start running because you can see the kid, you never teach them to run, but they know how to run because they learn how to observe and then improve themselves. So thank you.
Yeah, all right, thank you. And Hùng. Okay, last question from the gentleman.
AI lab.
Okay, let's keep it brief. Maybe Hùng can take the first question, and then Jay can take the second one.
So I'll start with try to answer the first question is, should we focusing on only one or two DCs rather than generalize so multiple DC for radiology diagnostic using AI? So I think that in my opinion, yes, I think like you're right that it is when you creating an AI product, it is an iterative process. So fundamentally, you will be basically focusing on, you have to develop the metric to measure the quality first. And then that's one of the fundamental when you creating and measure the quality of the product. During that journey, you try to collect as much as labeling data and also go by the geography that you can collect to ensure that you have the clean data. You can think that the clean data is more like gasoline versus than the other, just like, like raw oil. Some of the oil, like mine today is not economy, like, to suck it up. So I think that you have to look at the whole thing when you evaluate from offline and online. And maybe, yes, you may not have to do, like, say, on the 18 DC that today WingBrain try to do, but maybe we can tackle, like maybe the beginning we do 6, and then we do another 12, and then another 18. I think like also like you look at the problem from the complexity of the imaging you're going to take. Say like for example, X-ray you have only a couple of image, but like for CT scan you may have like say like WingMax system today they have the most complex expensive machine like it have like 640 image per CT like cases. So those things you may tackle is in the next day. So fundamentally, I think I want to share when you build a great product or a great AI, you start process it from vertical. You start from the scenario and get it into the quality. Rather you go pro. So I think I agree in the principle that we don't want to tackle and boiling the ocean of the world. I think a lot of it is just like a PR. The reality when you create a product, you need to differentiate and make it uniqueness. So those are very fundamental. We're not here to do PR. We're here to creating something that create impactful. So I think the philosophy of make sure high quality, measure it, make sure we continue to measure and evaluate it. So
Thank you. Thank you for your generous offer.
Thank you very much. I would
please
like to
welcome
give
in,
you